Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Hans Riemer, Council President. We do have a significant issue, which is a letter signed by the respective council presidents and county executives of Montgomery and Frederick counties about the project that the state is considering for 270 expansion, I-270. And we were very, very surprised to hear that the Department of Transportation was considering, State Highways was considering terminating the area of 270 that would be open to new construction at 370. And that we felt like would really not solve the problem in any significant way and would result in a huge, you might release traffic below 370, but you would result in even more extensive delays north. And we think that it should go all the way, any new build should go all the way into the city of Frederick. And so we are calling upon the governor and Secretary Ron to change that and to consider projects from their construction bids that will go all the way into Frederick. And that's one of our highest priorities in this county for up-county traffic relief is 270. And so, stopping any construction at 370 will really leave a lot of our up-county residents with not much of an improvement from their existing circumstances. So that letter has gone out, and
you mentioned in the letter considering a transit proposal in part of that. Can you talk a little bit about how that added with improvements to 270 is something that definitely needs a look?
Well, we have already said on many occasions that we think this whole study, this whole project needs to be multimodal, and that the solution for the future is not just to figure out how you get cars moving more efficiently, but is how do you get people moving more efficiently in a variety of modes. So if they want to take the bus, that should be an option. And we think a project of this scale, a multi-billion-dollar project, really needs to include significant enhancements to transit, and that really this would be a major concern for us if the project were to ultimately move forward without any transit inclusion. And so we're trying to call on the state now that they must include that so that the bids that they get back also include transit as an option. If you want to be able to take a very quick transit trip from the northern part of the county, on down or over to Virginia, we want you to be able to do that. So I thought it was notable that the Frederick County team also shares that perspective. And we'd like to see a very efficient transit trip from Frederick all the way down through the job corridors or to wherever their destination is. So the emphasis of this letter certainly is on continuing the enhancements north of 370, but there's also a very important point there that we think whatever project it is, at this scale, it just has to be multimodal. Thank you, Susan.
And this is in response to the study on the widening 270 and 495, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you talk about the economic impact of those improvements? I mean, I think, so many of us spend so much time stagnated on 270, and that's got to hurt, both Frederick and Montgomery County, Upper Montgomery County, potential for economic development, and maybe how this could enhance that as well.
Well, sure. I mean, it's as much of a housing issue and a housing affordability issue as anything as well. What counts is how quickly from where you live can you get to your job. That's really the calculation that matters in a substantial way to most people. And the situation now for a lot of folks has become very intolerable, and 270 is at the crux of that. So at some point, companies no longer feel confident that if they locate in an extremely congested area, that they'll be able to get the workforce that they need, to be able to get to their jobs in a timely manner. And so we do need to make transportation improvements so that we'll continue to have private investment and growth in our private sector here. And at the same time, we need to embrace the future and not make the mistake of thinking that the only solution is going to be purely highway expansions for vehicles, single occupancy vehicles or, private vehicles. That any real serious approach to the future is going to be multimodal and is going to figure out how to bring in, significant transit enhancements as well. All right.
Last week you were looking at about $21 million added to the reconciliation list. Is there any update on any final decision on that?
Yeah, well, we will not be adding $21 million to the budget. That has never really been a possibility. I don't think anybody ever thought that was going to happen. But the sum total of all the individual projects that people have recommended, council members have recommended, might equal that. But we're not going to have funding to allow that to happen. The amount of money that we'll have available will be substantially less than $21 million.
Do you know when you're going to come up with that number?
It'll be pretty soon, next couple of days. Yeah, keep your eyes on that one.
Do you know how much it's going to be? Because it's going to be more than zero, I assume. Right?
Definitely more than 0 and less than 21. Yes.
Well, do you think it's the fiscally prudent thing to do to add millions of dollars to the county executive's budget after?
Well, keep in mind, we do look for savings as well. So we're seeking to offset additions with savings. So, we're working our way through those challenges.
Why do you think the committees had recommended so few cuts? I know it was a member of county staff that said this year was they recommended fewer than
Yeah, well, there was fewer cuts available. I think that's the tough reality, is that there's just not as much room to save funding because it's already a very, very tight budget. The executive's recommended budget was down 0.5 percentage point for Montgomery County government. So when you look at the libraries and the police and the fire and the parks and not parks, but recreation, you put all those together, the total budget for those items was down 0.5 percentage point. So there just wasn't a lot of places to go for additional savings, and that is going to have an impact on how much money we're able to fund when we are trying to finally reconcile all of our recommended additions. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
The council's taking up small cell antennas tomorrow, is that right? Could you talk about that?
Yeah. Sure. Well, the council is taking up a recommended zoning change from the county executive that will clear up the rules around how small cell infrastructure can be deployed in commercial areas. And this is really about the future of wireless and whether the device that you have today, will be able to meet the needs that you have for however you want to use your phone or your laptop or whatever device you have, in 5 or 10 years. And the future of the industry is changing radically, quickly, and the new technology that we will all be using in a few years is going to be massively faster than it is now, and have much more capacity because we're all using so much more data and capacity than we ever used to use. And one thing seems very clear is that the trend line in consumption of information through our devices is just exponential. And we have really kind of maxed out, we are about to max out what you can accomplish in terms of supporting that demand through our large towers. And we really don't want to put large towers into neighborhoods. Nobody wants to install a new 300-foot cell tower, in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And so the industry has moved towards these, smaller scale antennas, this infrastructure that more readily harmonizes with existing streetlights or utility poles. And so we have taken up a committee, and we recommended unanimously a zoning change that will facilitate deployment in our commercial areas, and that will help us move forward to meet the changing needs of the industry, but really the changing needs of our residents. We have a very we are a cutting edge community, And the people who live in our community, everybody has at least one device, I think, for the most part. And we need to meet the demand that they have for capacity in the future. Okay, thank you very much.